Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. You should recognize our guest if you're a longtime listener. We have Bri back on the podcast. It's been, like we were talking about right before we started recording, over 3 years, and I cannot understand that because it seems like it was yesterday to me, and it just goes to show how quickly some stuff seems to go by. But yeah, she's on here to give us an update on what she's been up to, and we can see the new hair color. We talked a little about that as well, and all other things brand new. We'll just give an update on what she's been up to. But most importantly, Bri, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It has been quite a while, so I'm glad that, we're able to get back to it and go over what we've been, going through over the past couple years and yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was September of 2020, so we were still probably in lockdown or whatever was going on back then. So that's hard to imagine that it was, that long ago. But
Mhm.
just yeah, 3.5 years. So why don't you just give us an update on what the last 3.5 years have been like for you? I guess.
Well, it's been a roller coaster, to say the least. Let's see. I made my pro debut in figure in 2021 at the Savannah Pro. I came in 15th out of 31, I believe. So just right middle in the pack. Definitely could have came in a lot more conditioned, but with what was going on at the time, I actually had my mom. She was going through skin cancer. I had recently gotten a puppy, so and there were multiple other things going on in my life at that point that didn't make it makes sense to actually go through with a prep. So that definitely played its toll on it. But no excuses. Everybody has their own hardships. So we learn from our mistakes and we keep it going. But so over that, I guess 2022, I took that whole year off, just primarily to grow and live a more normal life because going back to that 2020, I was in prep for over a year as those shows kept getting pushed back. So it was definitely important to take some time off, not only to grow but to grow mentally as well, and you know form stronger relationships with people overall, because when you are in prep for that long, you're dialed in and you kind of zone everything else out. But um and then going to last year, I was supposed to make my debut in women's physique, and I had some trouble with some coaches along the way. So I had been working with a coach for a few years, and it just something wasn't clicking, and I think his passion went elsewhere. So um, my shows last year kept getting pushed back once again, so I was prepping all last year. Um, and then I ended up switching coaches. I was planning to do the Texas Pro, and I switched coaches about 7 weeks out. And then, we pushed really hard for, 6 weeks, and then he decided to pull me out 1 week out. So that was kind of devastating on its own. But everything happens for a reason. So it was mentally hard to go through at the time. But like I said, everything happens for a reason. And now, fast forward to now, I have switched coaches again because I felt like the one that I was with previously just definitely wasn't a good fit at the time, at least. So, not to knock him and his coaching, he's a great coach, but who I'm with now is going to prioritize my health and longevity within the sport, which is very important to me because I am only 24 years old. So it's very important that I have all those health markers in check, and I am able to pursue bodybuilding for the long haul, essentially. So yeah.
Have you always been someone that's done preps for years long for a year long? Because that just seems horrible to me.
No, honestly, it just hasn't. It's just kind of fallen into place like that. No, it wasn't planned at all. It just goes down to COVID happening in 2020, and then having a coach that wasn't as aware as he needed to be. So yeah, that's just how the cards played out, unfortunately. So this year we will be getting to the stage. So there'll be a little bit more structure of timeline there, and I know that we're definitely going to execute that. So it won't be a year long prep this year. So I'm
Yeah,
excited
cut to
for
all of
it.
a sudden it's a year-long prep. I'm not jinxing it though, everyone, but I'm just saying, everything comes in threes, so
Yep.
you never know. But what would you say is one area of your physique that you've improved on the most in the 3.5 years since we last had you on?
Oh God. I mean, honestly, everything. Because structurally, I'm pretty proportional. And symmetrical. So, the way I've been doing my training over the last couple of years, I feel like, uh, it's just also just bringing up everything as it should. So, um, now I have, I guess, gotten a little bit wider, a lot more dense. So that's really good because at my pro debut in figure, one of the things was muscle maturity that I needed. So I really feel like going into this year, we will start to see a little bit more of that come into play. And then, two, that's just going to keep coming along with time. So I'm not really too worried about that. And, I do want to make it to the Olympia, but I am not expecting it this year. I'm just wanting to, present my best because I haven't been able to in a few years. So, um, that's what I'm mainly excited for, and, my time will come for the Olympia, so.
What was the decision behind moving up from figure to physique?
So in figure, I felt like I kind of towered over the girls a lot. A lot of the girls that tend to do well seem to be on the more shorter side, whereas I'm a little bit taller. I'm 5'6.5". And I feel like a lot of the girls are, anywhere between 5'2", 5'4". So I felt like too, I wanted to still continue to train hard and heavy. That's what I enjoyed doing. And for me to stay in figure, I wouldn't necessarily be able to continue doing that. Now that doesn't go to say like I maybe wouldn't be able to compete in figure this year, maybe, but I think for sure going past this year, I don't think figure would be into play. So
Well, you never know. I mean, figure's just been getting bigger every year anyways, but yeah, just
yeah.
the way things are, yeah, right now I totally understand that. But we talked about it a little bit before, but your red hair, what's the story behind that now? Because I remember the last time I had you on, you were a blonde and now you decided to become ginger for a while at least, I guess. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so I mean, naturally blonde, been blonde my whole life. I have, had different little spells of, wanting to try different things and whatnot. And, it's just one of those times right now where I just wanted something different. And I don't know. I just, like I said, I wanted something different. My brother's a ginger, and I've always been kind of jealous of his hair, to be honest, because I don't know. It's a really good color. So I had my hairstylist match it, and so now he doesn't look adopted. So
I will say my best friend is ginger, so I can make all the ginger jokes I want. I have the card in my wallet right now saying that, I can, but yeah, I saw that and I was like, okay, she's trying to do that. I guess everyone has has reasonings for it, but how has your training changed up since you did move up to physique? Now I know you said you just wanted to keep training harder and stuff, but have you even had to ramp it up even more now that you're sort of expected to have an even more denser and harder look?
Um, actually, so I mean, yes in a way, but no in a way as well. So, recently, over the past year, I also hired a training coach to take over, because my clients were increasing. I don't have as much time for myself. So, I hired Nick Gloff to take over my training for right now, and he's kind of scaled some things back even as far as like working sets, whereas personally I feel like maybe I was doing a little too much. So he kind of scaled that back a little bit and getting more out of the least, I guess. So a couple more rest days here and there, less working sets, but getting more out of it. And honestly, I feel like I'm having a really good response with that. So that's primarily the only changes I've made over the past year at least. Um, and yeah.
Well, and you mentioned that you took like a year off to sort of live a normal life for a little bit. What was that like?
It was good. It was good, but it definitely was not for me in a way. I mean, I still lived the lifestyle for the most part. Um, I was just primarily working on working, and building the relationships I had at the time. and I honestly just thrive in more of like a tunnel vision. So I'm glad that I was able to take that time off, because now I can actually execute everything I need to do and not feel like, oh, well, I'm missing out on XYZ. And because I was able to experience that XYZ during that time, and it come to find out it wasn't really all that what it cracked up to be. So um I definitely like the lifestyle that I live right now, as far as being more structured and have a set goal in mind, because that during that time too, it was hard mentally for me to not have anything in place to look forward to or to strive for. So I definitely feel like we're in a thriving season.
How's your nutrition differed since you moved up a division?
Oh gosh. So with that, all last year I was pretty much over dieted. So roughly my calories were around 1,200 calories from last April up until July. Yeah. So that just goes to show things were not, you know, paid attention to very closely, as far as the coaching goes. And, you know, even after the fact, the rebound wasn't really taken advantage of. And, um, with the over dieting, we came to find that, my gut bacteria was a little bit imbalanced with the good and the bad. So I have a little bit more of the bad bacteria and less of the good. So right now, we are currently in like a short little phase of trying to rebalance those out. And so then from there, we'll be able to increase our food, more than likely, and go into a short growing phase before we go into our prep. So um, right now we are kind of in like a low FODMAP diet. So foods that are going to be less sensitive to my body. My aunt did find out too that I'm gluten intolerant. So yay. um, but all with good reason. Everything happens for a reason. So from here I can only imagine food will get higher and higher, which I'm really excited for, because I love to eat. So that's another good reason of me moving up a division and wanting to gain more size, because that's something you have to do.
So you're gonna be one of those people now at the restaurant saying like, "Oh, does that have any gluten in it? I can't have any gluten in it." God damn it, Bree.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I had honestly, like, I had my first off-plan meal after being on a new program. I had it this past weekend, and it was so difficult, because I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna have? So I ended up just cooking something at home to make it easy. But yeah, so after the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to kind of have maybe a little bit of gluten, maybe, but still keep it relatively very clean. But yeah, it does make things difficult.
How the hell were you living off 1,200 calories a day at 5'6"?
Yeah. I mean, I I pushed through it. It wasn't fun by any means, because it did take a toll on my training. I honestly didn't enjoy training for most of the year last year, just because like I hadn't had a pump from April to July. And you could definitely tell I was over dieted, because coming out of the prep, it took, I think I was 2 weeks into the reverse and doubling the calories, having, I think it was like 5 or 6 off plan meals on top of that, until I was able to actually get a pump. So it was pretty extreme. And I know I did lose a good bit of muscle tissue during that time too, but it's okay. So yeah.
I couldn't think of any worse torture than working your butt off and never seeing a pump. God, that's got to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll
Especially after a
definitely build
hard
some
day in
character.
the gym and you're like, there's nothing. Like, there's no pump. There's what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, like, did I do anything? I don't know. But, yeah, it'll definitely build some character, that's for sure.
Good God. Yeah. I mean, it's just, and when it comes to finding a coach, a question that I've been recently asking people, and I mean, your situation perfectly describes it. What to you makes a coach a good coach? Because it does differ from person to person. And for every good coach that you'll find, there's more bad coaches, especially nowadays that everyone thinks that they're coach after they compete in, one show. But in just your own personal experience, obviously without you not bad mouthing anyone or anything like that, but like
Mhm.
what in your situation makes a coach a good coach in your view?
Um, ooh, a good bit of things, honestly. Somebody that primarily, takes health as a priority, because, without good health, you're not going to get anywhere, so that should come first, rather than, trying to push PEDs on clients, or, not having enough knowledge behind those PEDs to even suggest doing that, that sort of thing. Somebody that too takes into consideration the opinion slash wants slash goals of that individual, rather than creating their own timeline, like, so to say. Like, I don't think that a coach should be like, oh, well, it's my way or the highway. No, no, you should try to educate your clients along the way as well, and make them aware of what's going on and why. Because there's nothing like being in the unknown. And honestly, that's kind of what I felt like a little bit somewhat last year. And to me, like, you should be able to learn from the coach that you're with. So
I just gotta point out, everyone, if you do see me yawning ever in the corner, it's 9 a.m. for me, which for as a night worker, this is the equivalent of 3 a.m. for the bodybuilders that I have on. So it's not to insult the guest, or it's not to insult the people who are listening to this. This is just, and if you see my hand over my mouth, that's just me yawning and not wanting. That's like the little, like how the Japanese schoolgirls, like when they giggle, they kind of like cover their mouth. That's just me. That's just me covering it so that people don't see me yawn. I think I just have to point that out whenever I record a podcast this early. For me, it's like, yeah, this is like me, and this is without coffee too. So that's just a whole. Because if I did coffee before, well, Bri, look how hyper I am even right now. Could you imagine me if I had a cup of coffee in me? You
yeah,
would, you
yeah.
would, you would not get a word in. It,
You can
it,
bounce it off the wall.
oh, it would be 45 minutes of Bri just standing there being like, "Yep, mm-hmm, mm-hmm." Good talk, Ryan. Good talk. I didn't get to share anything, but glad nice little 45-minute update on yourself. But no, yeah. So that's the real. I just had to do my little tangent thing there. But yeah, with coaching too, yeah, so many times people don't ask questions too, and it's like they're just afraid to, and then they're just it's a whole yes sir relationship where they do whatever they say, and it's like no, you got to ask questions and do your research as well. That's the best piece of advice that I would give anyone out there. But with posing, please tell me you're enjoying the women's physique division posing more than the figure posing. You don't have to wear those high heels and everything.
Yes, yes. Oh my God. The only time I'm wearing heels now is, doing posing sessions with my posing clients, because I do pose with bikini wellness and figure. But for me personally, I absolutely love ditching the heels. I'm so much more comfortable, to say the least. But to like the posing, you can be more creative. You can, show your physique the way you want to. And whereas, the other divisions, it's very cut and dry, which there's nothing wrong with it. But, personally for me, I like to be a little bit more creative and, show that creative side.
So, like on top of that, with the creativity, that's one thing that we hear obviously as well for all the people that move up to those divisions. But was it harder for you then to come up with a routine then because of you had so much more input when you were used to being in a division where, like you said, everything was just so structured and you couldn't really make anything your own, really?
Um, no, I didn't find it very difficult because, you know, flashback to 2020, I did cross over in over three divisions at the national show. So I did wellness figure and women's physique. So leading up to that, I was already kind of in a women's physique mindset as far as creating that. And with as much posing as I had done with that and continued doing it as so, it hasn't been a struggle for me, and it's honestly just gotten better and better. So,
So when you're on the 1,200 calories and you're never seeing a pump, where does that mental strength come from for you to keep doing it? Because there are times in anyone's life when something like that happens where they have that little, they have the angel on one side, the devil on the other side, and the devil's
mhm.
just telling them like, why are you doing this to yourself? This is just absolutely ridiculous. What caused you to push through and, pull through in that time?
Just that goal that I had in mind, that vision that I had in mind, like, I was determined more than anything to get to from point A to point B, and, like, I know what I bring to the table, I know what I'm capable of, so it was more so, like, just the fact of not giving up, because I know if I would've given up on myself, I wouldn't been able to forgive myself. So it was more so just the discipline kicking in and being more so like in a habit. Well, all right, well, just same shit, different day. So
Is it hard being that you are, I mean, so young at 24, and this is a sport that generally is people like in their 30s and 40s, and that's when you see like the big results and you see a lot of the people. I mean, I think Andrea Shaw didn't even win the Olympia until she was like well into her 30s or in her 30s. Like this is a sport of delayed gratification. Is it hard to when you're being that young to sort of realize that this takes so much time to really cultivate and develop a package that a lot of judges are going to like?
it is kind of difficult when you like sit back and look at the grand scheme of things. But I started competing when I was 17, 18. So, I learned that very early on. And so it hasn't really bothered me. It's just, I enjoy the lifestyle and that's a big part of it. So like if you do it like I see a lot of people do just for the Instagram or social media, then you're gonna burn out a lot quicker. You're not gonna be able to sustain the lifestyle. Whereas like for me, it's just like I said, same stuff, different day. And that's the way I like to live. So
I can tell within 5 minutes of talking to a guest if they are one of those people. And yeah, it is. It's gotten more and more prevalent as the years have gone on. Has it's gotten more popular on Instagram? But yeah, it's just. And those people eventually, they'll burn themselves out. But I asked you last time if there's one thing about the sport of bodybuilding that you could change. If you would, what would you do? But if there's one thing you could change about the lifestyle, what would you change?
mm, I mean, honestly, nothing really.
So those days when you're crying on the treadmill, you wouldn't change anything.
No, because I mean, honestly, it adds to the person that you are. It makes you a stronger person. And
So you're telling me if you had the choice to never do cardio again and still get the results, you wouldn't do that?
um, I mean, yeah, I don't like cardio by any means, but I know it comes along with the process. So I have to be realistic. So
This is why these people are psychopaths, everyone, and that's why every once in a while, they're the good kind of psychopaths. But I gave her the option to change anything about her lifestyle, and she said, "Nope, then nope, that's fine." And I can guarantee there'll be times where she's probably thinking, like, "God, I'm such an idiot for never." This is probably my punishment for not changing anything and just saying, like, "No, I'm fine where it is." But no, it's that dedication, that discipline that is just so it's so admirable and freaky at the same time for someone like me who just works out just for the lifestyle version of it. But we talked about last time about some of the reactions that you get just being someone who's in a lot of shape, especially being someone so young and as you're in prep. But have the reactions gotten different now that you've moved up to physique and put on even more size? What's that experience been like for you?
well, I'll just give you an example. So last summer I went to a Luke Combs concert,
Oh
right?
god.
Yeah. So I hadn't been out in public in a huge social setting like that in like a very, very long time, I'll just say. Probably since before I started bodybuilding, probably. And so I had on like a crop top, it was summertime, shorts. Um, yeah, so the reactions I got were not the best, but then I also had some really good reactions. I had, a couple people come up to me and be like, "You look freaking awesome. Like, keep doing what you're doing." Like, and they just wanted to meet me. But then I also, had those glares that are like, "Oh God," or like you could even hear them like standing in line to get beverages or whatever, and us walking by, you could just hear them like, "What is that?" Or like stuff like that. I'm like, okay. And my friends that were with me at the time, they're so protective. They were as soon as they heard something, they would like snap their heads and like look at them, like give them like a mean glare. But I don't. Everybody's going to have their own reaction. Everybody has their own opinion, so I don't hold anything against them. Something else that happened that same day was I was standing in line to go to the bathroom, and it was me and my friend, and then there were two girls behind us. My friend caught them taking a picture of me and like writing something in Snapchat or something. And so I took a step back and I was like, I'm not gonna be, have like an attitude or be mean or anything, because obviously that's not a good representation of, the sport itself. So I just took a step back and I was like, I honestly, I normally get paid for pictures to be taken of me, but today it's on me. Go for it. I hope you enjoy. And her face was just like, and she didn't have anything to say. She just like put her phone away. And it's like, you can't just go taking pictures of people. Like, it doesn't matter, what they look like, what they're doing or whatever. Like, it's just wrong in general, to be honest. So,
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like she was gonna say like I'm your biggest fan, and then you'd feel like the biggest piece of crap ever. Where she's just like, I was taking a photo to send like, oh my god, Bree's here, and I follow her on Instagram and everything. Like, okay, first of all, everyone, if you're ever caught in that situation, just do that, and then you're gonna make the person that you're gonna make Bree feel like absolute crap. But that's what you do. I'm giving you guys tips right now. Just be like, I'm your biggest fan. I was telling people like, oh my god, it's her. Here's a no. I'm obviously they weren't doing that, but like that's my 2 cents. I can get you out of any social situation. Anyone, you just have to have the proper thing to say, and everything will be fine. But yeah, the moment that you mentioned going to Luke Combs concert, I was like, oh god, that's just asking for it right there. Like,
yeah, yeah. But it was a good thing that I wore what I did because it was so dang hot. So,
what are you talking about? That's when you wear like a sweater to first and be like, God, it's so hot here, and then you do the reveal in front of
yeah.
everyone.
I'm like, oh shit, didn't know
And then you
you were
gotta just
like
be like, yeah, it's still there. Yeah, so no, but that's again, more props to you too, because I know so many people that are afraid to do that, and it's just, and I understand why, because you do get some reactions, but at least there were some positive reactions as well, because those are things that make it. Which I would be the one too, where I would be like, you don't even look like you work out. I would say something snappy too, just to like just to throw you off balance too, or something like that. But no,
Yeah.
that. I mean, that is definitely. How was the concert though? I will ask.
Oh, the concert was awesome. Like, it was only my second concert I've ever been to in my life, to be honest, but it was really, really good. He put on a great show, so I definitely want to go see him again this year. So,
I think he's coming up here this summer, and I should definitely get tickets for it because yeah, I've heard he's. I mean, I like his music too, so I should definitely check that out myself. But just with the whole training aspect and how much it takes, like you had that year where you were still in shape, but you kind of relaxed a little bit more. I know you said that you missed this lifestyle, but now going back into it, is there any aspect of the taking a year off lifestyle that you miss now that you're back into the bodybuilding lifestyle?
um, no, not necessarily.
God damn it, Bree.
I'm sorry. I mean, the coach that I have now, I mean, I would, if I didn't have the coach that I have now, I would say yes, because I miss a little bit of the variety of foods. But with the coach that I have now, he's also very conscious of like wanting various micronutrients within our diet. So he has multiple different sources of proteins, carbs for me to choose from within my plan. So I am going to get that, or I am getting that variety. So I don't have anything to change really.
So you mentioned now that you have more rest days now than before. How are you filling those rest days? What are some things that you like to do outside of the gym?
So it's primarily filled with work, making content for social media. And then two, I picked up I guess it's a little hobby you could say, but so it's this fitness sauna studio called Hotworks. And where they have these little tiny saunas and you can follow a virtual class in them. And so they have like Pilates, bar, yoga, stretch, core, etc. And sometimes I'll do some of those classes just for something else to do. And I like to move. I like to be moving and active. So that just kind of takes me out of the bodybuilding world, but allows me to still do something that's moving. So
Does having that much size affect your like when you're in especially like stretching classes? Because I found that as I got bigger, I could not stretch as I could before, and it was hilarious for people to try to see me attempt to do that. And when I see bodybuilders in general, like if I have a few in the gym and they're like doing anything stretching, I try not to laugh.
actually, no, because I've, kept up with my stretching along the way. So I'm a pretty flexible person. So I really don't have any trouble with that at all. Now there are some, upper body mobilities that I am restrained from doing, but it's very little, I will say that.
Oh my god, I thought of a great tiebreaker at the Olympia if they ever needed whoever can touch their toes. That's how they
There
break a
you
tie if you do a thing. You got to do at least, something like that, but just with all this sport that's changed in the last 3 years. I mean, it's changed drastically, even in the 5.5 years that I've done this. But in the 3 years, especially, what has that been like as someone who's been on the inside of it, just to see how much this sport has evolved and changes, especially the fact that. I mean, figure competitors now were physique competitors. I mean, 5 years ago. But what's that been like to just see that change and evolve in the 7 years that you've been doing bodybuilding?
It's been really cool, honestly, because when I started bodybuilding, that was when Sydney Gillen was starting to win the Olympia, and I always answer this question on my story. Okay, who do you look up to in the industry? Who do you want to be like? This, and that. And it's like I honestly don't want to be like anybody else because I actually can't. Like bodybuilding is so subjective and individualized that you can't, like, even if you were to strive to be like someone, you're not going to be like someone. You can only be the best version of yourself. So just seeing it evolve and continue to get bigger and bigger with each division, honestly, is really exciting in a way because that's something that I like to put on size, so it definitely adds more of a challenge as well. So um and two, with all the other divisions, it's been really cool to see everybody kind of evolve with it. So
Sorry. Yeah, no, it is it is impressive to see, especially the changing and evolution just of this sport, in general. But we talked a little bit about social media, and there's so many good things about social media. Like, I would not be doing this podcast without Instagram. It's where I, message everyone. But on top of that, there are some negative things about it. Number one being, if I ever competed, I would be that guy where I would find out every single person that I was competing against, and I would, stalk them, basically. Not literally, but online. I would stalk them and just, oh my God, they post such a great photo. I don't know if I could step on stage with them. Have you ever fallen into that rabbit hole? And if you have, how have you gotten out of it? Because yeah, that would be 100% something that I would do.
So going to my pro debut in figure in 2021, that is something that I did. As soon as that list came out, I was sitting there like looking at everybody there. I'm like, shit, I don't know about that. Okay, yeah, I got her. But then like, there's more cons to it than pros as far as, seeing your competition ahead of time because you can get into your head a lot. But over these past couple of years of me not competing, it's allowed me to kind of train my brain along the way of like not focusing so much on what others look like or what they're doing and just focusing more on like what I can do to improve myself because like I said, you can't, be like anybody else but yourself. So it's very important to just kind of stay in your own lane and not get in your head. Now, when it does come time for prep and whatnot, like last year, getting ready for a couple of the shows. I knew of some people that were competing, but I honestly found myself in a point where I wasn't really caring too much whether they showed up or not or who showed up. So it just goes to show like you just have to take some time to focus on yourself and train your brain essentially. So
Well, and you got to realize too. I mean, so many people look different in real life than they do on social media, and that's someone who's been to a few shows and then realize. Now, again, I will say there is that one person who looks even better in person than they do in photo, and you're like, what? Like, that's not.
yeah.
I okay, but normally most of the time, yeah, people find a way. I'm not saying they doctor their photos, even though wink wink, but even though, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything, but they doctor it in a way either with angles or with. We're not even talking about like
Lighting.
we're not even talking about the other ways that they doctor photos, but the lighting and the angles, yeah, too. I mean, there's a photo. I mean, I could do something with a photo right now where I'd look, presentable at least. But yeah, it's ridiculous what, especially with technology, how things are going. But where would you like to be at the end of this year when we have you on next year? I'm not going to wait another 3 years. I promise. I'm even writing that down in my notes right now. But what are your goals for this year? Because you said you plan on stepping on stage again.
Yeah, so this year definitely we're gonna be growing for at least 3 months or so. And so hopefully adding some good quality size. But then to honestly just bring my best package that I can at the show. I'm not, yes, I would love to win. Don't get me wrong. I'm in it to win it, but I'm also okay with not winning it. My time will come, like I said. And so my goal is to just get on stage one or two times, show my best, and, represent the women's physique division in the way that I feel like it can be, as far as bringing that the youthfulness, the femininity with it, and just showing that it can be done in a less extreme way. Um, so that's primarily my goal this year, and then next year we can take things up a notch, and that can be more so focused on taking that pro win.
Wait, if I remember, you used to be a soccer player, right?
Yep, yep.
Have you ever tried to get back on the field now that you look this way and just realize how much more different it is to play soccer when you have that body type?
So I did referee soccer during that 2021-2022 time, and that was rough. That was rough running up and down the field, especially at that off-season weight.
Seeing a meathead
Yeah.
just trying to breathe and stuff like that running up and down the field.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so it was definitely, it was funny because too, there were so many looks that I got like, dang, what? And I got so many comments like, you're jacked. I'm like, I guess so, yeah.
I mean, not too many people are gonna complain about the calls. Then it seems like really when you look like that too, they're just gonna be like, "Hey, I'll take my card," I guess. But
Yeah.
and just in general, yeah, it's just so great to have you back on. And with everything that's been the last 3 years, if you were to look back on the last 3 years, what would you say is probably the one thing, at least in the last 3 years, is probably the number one highlight of your journey in the sport so far?
Um, More so just blossoming into the person I am today. Because I didn't have the easiest last few years, with so many things going on, after having to overcome so many things, being held back essentially in a way. To so I mean, really, I'm more thankful for everything that I went through, because it has made me mentally stronger, and I really think it has prepared me to execute this year in the best way possible. So that's probably the highlight of it all, rather than the events within it.
No, I understand completely what you're saying. I think we all grew a little bit mentally as well, especially throughout the pandemic and all the other things that happened with that. But has your cardio changed at all now that you moved up the division? Are you still doing as much as you were doing before? Or are you doing a little bit less, hopefully?
Well, right now I've never done cardio in an off season before, and that's kind of the change here. So we have increased cardio a little bit. But primarily just for cardiovascular health. So I mean, it's not too taxing. It's 24 minutes 4 times a week right now. And that may even decrease to 3 times per week. I'm not sure, but it's not extreme, and it's really not that bad. So, and two, primarily I do a step count, and I like to go on walks. So, my steps are around like 12 to 13K a day. And so if I exceed that, then I don't do cardio. So, I can have some flexibility with that.
So I'm about to tell you at the very end. You're going to tell me if you think that I have to do cardio tonight when I get home from work. So today I'm working a double. Right after I'm done talking to you, so about 45 minutes from now I'll be starting work, and it's a double. And on doubles I average anywhere from 50 to 70,000 steps.
I don't think you need cardio,
I
my
think
guy.
I
No.
I think I do. I think I need to go run a marathon after that. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
These are the days where, afterwards, if I crawl up my stairs, I'll crawl up my stairs. But, there have been times after one of these where my feet felt wet and I was like, oh, yeah, they're wet. It was blood. Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, no. I think you need to sit your butt down.
Yeah, those are definitely one of those where I'm just gonna crack open a cold one and just sit down and then probably pass out on the couch. Not pass out from drinking, everyone. Pass out from exhaustion. I do got to bring that up. If I First of all, if I pass out from one beer, you deserve it. Let's be completely honest. I mean, like that's just you, being you. But I mean, Bri, we cannot thank you enough for coming on. And I do gotta ask. Well, before we wrap things up, though, even too, like going through all these coaches, how did you deal with all that stuff mentally as well? Because like we talked about the mental side of like just being on the low calories, but being that you just had to constantly change things up, how did you deal with that?
Well, the initial switch last year was really hard at the time because like I said, I had been with that coach for a few years. And we had a deeper friendship bond rather than just a coach client. And that was really hard, especially seeing him go through what he was going through at the time. And honestly, that coach switch to the coach that I was working with was more of like a rational thing. Like, okay, I need to just get with a coach right now, so I can, finish out this prep. And so that was more of like an urgent case. And so it was kind of hard to switch, mentalities there as far as, how the different structure was, different expectations and whatnot. And then, this go round, I felt like it was more stressful the first time switching, but it was more of like this switch put me at ease, so to say. So it hasn't been too hard going forward from now. But when I was prepping, that was definitely hard because too, with the emotional state that you're already in as far as sensitivity wise, yeah, it was definitely hard to deal with at the time. So
Well, and I don't know, did we talk about this last time? I don't even know if you had them, but those tattoos that I see on your hand and on your wrist, did you have those when we last talked?
no, I got these pretty much last year. Yeah. So me and my best friend got two of them together, and I just wanted a couple of more. So yeah.
So people I've talked to have gotten tattoos. Do the ones on the fingers hurt the most? Because a lot of people that I talked to actually said that for a lot of them, those are the ones that hurt the most.
No, actually, my pain tolerance is pretty high though. But I mean, they didn't really bother me all that much.
I forgot that we're talking to a bodybuilder here, and when you ask a bodybuilder about pain tolerance, most of them are like, "Yeah, I didn't even feel a thing," and you're like, "Okay, well, you're crazy." So you know. But again, everyone, Bree, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with us. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, everyone, go and check her out on her Instagram page. You know, buy her Beware. You will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. But again, Bree, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I can't wait to be back.
Absolutely, and I apologize for the yawns again, everyone in advance. Hey, it wasn't as much as it used to be. There used to be a time where I would just be like having to like turn myself around and stuff. But again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.